All right, so yeah, one thing to note is that when you export a package, it's automatically going to include all scripts in your project. Someone is trying to join. 1 second. There. All right, now we've got quite a few people here. Yeah, when you export your package, it's going to export all of your C# files just by default, because the editor is not able to figure out all of the scripts that you need. Sometimes scripts have dependencies on other scripts, and so the editor isn't able to figure out which ones you need exactly, so it just does them all. Normally you'll click on a scene and you'll export the scene. If you have this include dependencies box checked, which you usually do, it includes all of the dependencies. Otherwise, if you uncheck it, it would just export our Unity scene, which is, yeah, it has everything, and we might end up putting some Unity scenes onto our Slack, just because today I think we're going to have maybe a little bit different approach. I want to make sure you guys are interacting and getting a chance to follow along, and so I might end up having individuals share their screens, and so everyone else can kind of follow along as we add new functions and features to the project that we were working on last Tuesday or 2 days ago. So let me go ahead and include dependencies and do an export. Day 4. And I'll put this on the Slack and everybody can import it. I want to make sure that, yeah, everybody's got the most recent version here. Well, all right. I know that the package was taking a long time to import on Tuesday. But hopefully when you import this package, you'll already have most of the files there. It'll just refresh anything that's wrong. This particular Unity package has the function that we added where we have multiple save points, and the tracker that tracks the X value that the player has traveled in the level, so that we know how far they've gone. So we know which save point to send them back to if they die. Yeah, why don't everybody, once you've gotten the package downloaded and imported, go over to the chat and just type done and hit enter. And that way I can see and make sure that everybody's done and up to speed. I want to, yeah, make sure this is a little more interactive. I think we might have lost 1 or 2 people on Tuesday. Yeah, I don't want to go too fast. People, yeah, everybody moves at a different pace, but I don't want anybody to get left behind. So far, I just see Adam done. But, meantime, see how. Oh no! See how hard this game is. Actually haven't beaten it yet. Whew. Whoa! Oh, that part's gonna be hard. Where did I put my save point? Ooh, it looks like something may not have gotten saved last time. We had a null reference in our console. Let's do a little bit of investigating. Looks like it threw it on line 23. We may be missing a spawn point, perhaps, in our... yeah, we forgot to save the scene. So let's stop here, because if anything you do to the scene while it's in play mode will not be saved. So let's go ahead and make a couple duplicates of our spawn points. It's going to be spawn point 2, spawn point 3. I like to try and keep my hierarchy as organized as possible. And last time, yeah, I showed you guys how to add the gizmos so that it's easier to see the different spawn points. Making sure that you're in the scene view. That way we have a better reference when we're going to drop our spawn points at different locations. So I can take this little handle, spin it over. Bring our second spawn point over a little bit farther so that if we die, we don't go quite so far back. Can take our third spawn point, drag it a little further. Let's set the spawn point right where it starts to get hard. There. Make sure we save our scene this time. And now that we have these spawn points, we need to make sure that they get dropped onto the correct component. That component was in the game controller, if I recall. See how they're missing here? They're none. So we want to go ahead and take our spawn point 2, drop it into spawn point 2, spawn point 3, drop that into spawn point 3. If we wanted to add additional spawn points, actually, let's go ahead and create a 4th spawn point, because we're going to want to make sure that if we do manage to get through this part right here, that we don't have to do it again if we die. So give it a good name. You don't necessarily have to name it good, but it's so much easier for other developers if you give your game objects and your variables and your classes good variable names. Let's go ahead and move, put the last spawn point right here. Notice when we come back to our game controller, we don't have a 4th spawn point, so we want to double click on our game controller and go ahead and put that in. If if you recall, the spawn points were actually in platformer model. This is where we put in our 4th spawn point. Does everyone understand what I'm doing here? Is this clear to everyone? How the editor and the code interact with one another. We've covered this in several classes, but I just want to make sure that everybody gets it, because this is how Unity works. This is how component-driven programming makes it easier, right? It's kind of nice. You can just kind of drop things in once you've got the game objects in your hierarchy, in your scene. You can just drag and drop things in. The last place we have to change is the player spawner, where if your player has gone more than another certain amount of distance, then we spawn after. Go back to 4. We'd look here, the X position, which is about 62. So if they've gone past 62, then they get to come back and respawn to that 4th respawn position. Have people gotten the Unity package downloaded and imported? Doesn't look like anyone has said.
I imported it, but like when I hit the play button, the character moves once and freezes.
Once the character moves, it freezes?
Yeah, he just like moves his leg and then freezes.
Do you get a warning or an error message in the console?
All I'm getting in the console is that game object enemy is missing. It's like a warning that's not, it's a yellow warning.
Do you want to share your screen real quick? Let me make sure. I'll stop presenting. And if you want to share your screen, pretty sure you have permissions. I don't think I have to click on anything special. It'll probably just ask me to grant you permissions. So yeah, feel free to share your screen.
So I did a new project from the 2D from scratch, and then imported it. I got it all imported, and I hit play here, and this guy like moves once, and then nothing happens.
Having a hard time seeing your screen. Your resolution is really. Let me see if I can't maximize this. Make it a little bit better. The reference script is missing. Yeah, it looks like your scripts got messed up somehow. Sometimes that can happen when your metadata files get mixed up. You see in your inspector, inside of the player controller, it says the associated script cannot be loaded. Please fix compile errors and assign a valid script. Go back to your console. Are you having some kind of compiler error? If you have any compiler error at all, Unity usually gets kind of confused. And
is there a way to do a build, maybe?
Unity's constantly always rebuilding, so if it's not correct, then usually means that there's a error in your code somewhere. You may want to try restarting Unity real quick. Sometimes, a simple restart can go a long ways, and that's true with a lot of things in IT. if you just restart your computer or restart something, or unplug the USB and plug it back in, or unplug your modem and plug your modem back in, a lot of times that will fix whatever problem you're having. See, it says the problem is actually with the packages. What version of Unity are you using?
It should be 12.
Yeah,
2019.
2019.3. Yeah, looks like you have the correct version. Install JavaScript package. When you you have the Java Software Development Kit installed on here, right? On your computer. Usually it installs it automatically when you install the Unity version, as long as you have the checkbox checked.
Any way to add more packages to this thing?
Go to the ... Did it allow you to it doesn't actually allow you to install additional packages or additional features and platforms. For some reason, I thought there was that option in Unity Hub.
I actually have them on external hard drive. I don't know if that's part of the reason.
I don't think so. I always run Unity on the local drive because then it goes faster. I've kept projects on external drives before, though, and haven't had a problem.
It's part of the Webgl, right?
WebGL is if we want to make it for the web. Otherwise, you
The
should
JavaScript
be.
package you're talking about.
It's usually under Android build support. There. Yeah. We don't want to install another version of Unity, though, especially. Ooh, this one has add modules.
Yeah, so which ones should we check? I don't think we had the right ones checked either.
Okay, well, it really depends on which platform you want to export your project to. We just, I think, want to export to Windows or Linux or whatever version you're using, and it shouldn't be a problem. I would say maybe go back and hit that add button. Maybe they, yeah, if you want to add modules.
But which modules do we need for this course? Because
just the Windows one should be fine.
the Windows one.
Yeah, if you're using Windows, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go back to your Unity real quick and hit add.
So I have Microsoft Visual Studio checked, and you said we should add WebGL build support.
If you want to be able to deploy your games to a web browser, then yeah, that's the one that you want to check. Otherwise, if you're just doing Windows ones, then you can go with the default, and it shouldn't require anything special.
So the only thing, I don't know what you mean by default, because it just says add either Microsoft Visual Studio, and then it asks for platforms. What would be the default?
Default is none, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's because I have it for a hard drive. It's not let me add the modules. But you're saying we need that OpenJDK for it to work, right?
For Android, usually it doesn't need anything special for the Windows one. I'm not sure why your metadata files got messed up or why it can't import the packages. Maybe go back over to your project real quick. If you still have it open. Go to your console.
Can you restart to see that same error? So if I reopen it.
Yeah, there's some kind of Unity package that it's not reading correctly.
Could it be missing the right add-ons? Which add-ons do you have in your setup?
Let's see here. Mine. Let me open up my Unity hub. Installs. Yeah, see, in my Unity hub, I have add modules. Let me show you guys. I'm not sure why they aren't showing up in Taylor's console, but let's see here. My screen.
Okay, so you have all three of the Androids. Oh, that was his.
Yeah, that was his. Here's
Okay.
mine. Yeah, I have an add modules here. Maybe it's because his was on an external drive, or maybe it was because this one.
Yeah, I have
doesn't.
that. We have add modules.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to know
add
which modules
modules.
to add. Yes, that's it.
See,
We
I
have.
don't have any extra ones checked. And this runs, this is kind of what the default is no extra packages. But if you wanted to build Android games, you'd want to check this one. If you wanted to build iOS games, you'd check this one. If you wanted to build VR games, you'd check this one. If you wanted to build, you do need Windows build. You need this one by default, I would say. Otherwise, you won't be able to export at all. I wonder what would happen.
Okay.
Why do you need the Windows build to do an export?
If you want to be able to deploy, you probably have to have at least one checked. Let me. I'm kind of curious as to what happens here if I even tried to build.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what is Universal Windows?
That's used for VR stuff. Yeah, if
versus
you want
the regular Windows build.
Correct.
So there are two of them. One says Universal Windows, and the other says Windows build. Should I check both?
If you want to do VR games, then you're going to want to get the Universal one. And if you don't care about the VR games, then you don't need to check the other one.
Okay.
Looks like I was able to do a build even without having my Windows one checked. Maybe it's because it builds it with a different framework instead of IL2CPP. IL2CPP is just an architectural framework that is used, but that is interesting that maybe it doesn't actually show you which ones are installed, because I know that I have some of these downloaded. This could be a bug. This could be a bug with Unity Hub or something. I would expect that when you click Add Modules, it would show you which ones you already have installed, but it's not. It's blank in all of these, which is really kind of not useful. Yeah, they're always iterating and updating Unity Hub. That's one thing you'll notice is that about every other time you launch the application, it'll ask you if you want to restart because they didn't update to it. But
I'm kind of thinking if you look at the file itself, you can see which ones are kind of there in the resources. And so if you want to add a module and you're on external hard drive, you remove it, and then you just install just those new modules, and you can copy and drag them over.
yeah, and one thing it'll do is it will tell you if you try switching your build settings to a different platform, it'll tell you if it's not installed. See how it says install in Unity Hub? And yeah, I'm not sure if I even actually went over that or not. If you want to deploy it to a particular platform, you go to File, and then you go to Build Settings, and then Build is the magic button to build the thing. But yeah, if you want to build it for Android, it looks like I don't have the Android stuff installed for this version of Unity. I only have the PC, Mac, Linux standalone. And even this, I only have the Windows one. So, yeah, Universal Windows Platform is the one that you need if you want to do VR things. So yeah, does that clear everything up for people? Although Taylor, you're still getting those warning messages.
Yeah, I don't think I had the Android support installed, so I'm adding that module.
Okay, is that the build environment that you have set up right now? Usually it defaults to PC, Mac, and Linux standalones. Yeah, if as long as you don't have Android selected, I don't think it would have given you issues. It seems like it. I don't know if it's working now, then that's good. Otherwise, it seems like it's probably more of a issue with the package.
How you change the build environment again?
Sorry?
How you change the build environment?
File and then build settings.
Okay. I have PC, Mac, and Linux.
Yeah, if that's where the little Unity symbol is, that's the platform that you have it set to. So, yeah, you imported my package, my day 4 package, right, over on top of your day 3?
No, I did on top of a 2D because I wasn't able to import last time. So for some reason, I downloaded the tutorials and then it wouldn't let me open them.
Okay, are you able to open them now?
Yeah, no. I had issues getting the tutorials to open even when they're downloaded.
Really? That's no good. And you did have the one error message about the package not importing correctly. And yeah, Unity kind of made the package handling more difficult. You used to have all of the packages in your assets folder. And now what Unity does is it has a packages primary folder like this. And rather than having all of the packages and things on the system itself, it keeps a track of inside of the manifest file. It keeps track, JSON manifest file. It keeps track of all of the packages that you're using, so that it kind of automatically does it, but it automatically does it kind of wrong, or at least it seems like you're having an issue because there's a compilation problem in the packages. When you drop down your packages folder, do you see all of these things here or not?
Packages folder project. I have all those there.
Okay. And
Well,
I guess
it's a little bit differently, but I have most of the stuff. I don't have the 2D sprite. I have like the character sprites.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is actually assets. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Oh yeah, I have the package folder here.
Make sure you get the 2D sprites, because we use a lot of 2D sprites in
Yeah,
this.
I have that in the packages. I was looking in the assets folder.
And I'm pretty sure we need the tile map editor as well. You can always go to Package Manager, and this will tell you all of the packages that you've got, or at least have access to. If you ever want to experiment with them. Yeah, it looks like they've added additional packages for Google VR now. Although, yeah, I don't know when the Google VR stuff is coming back. They retired, or they kind of shut down their Google Glass project a couple of years ago, which was kind of disappointing. I was a early developer for that, and they kind of pulled the rug out from underneath everybody. The store wasn't very good either, and the device itself was kind of finicky, but it was kind of a shame that they got us all to pay $1,500 for Google Glass devices, and then they just dropped support because there was some PR stories that kind of cast it in a bad light. And yeah, I think one of the primary design flaws is that they didn't have a red dot on the front of the camera to let people know that it was recording, so everyone just assumed that you were recording at all times, and that's not good. Because usually you weren't recording. If you were recording, then it was using up battery, and the battery life wasn't very good. Yeah, is anyone else having the problem that Taylor is having, where their packages aren't importing correctly? Or did everybody else? Oh, you're also having that problem.
So we had that problem too. So that's why I was just asking about adding which add-ons. So we just uninstalled Unity. It just wasn't working. So we waited till today to ask you about the add-ons. I guess I could have asked in Slack, but it's installing. I'll just listen.
Okay.
And we'll just listen until we get back up to speed.
Yeah, well, I was hoping to have everybody on the same page, just because I wanted to kind of divide things up and have other people developing rather than me sharing my screen the whole time. But yeah, just let me know, I guess, whenever you've got it installed. Taylor, you've tried importing multiple times, and each time it gives you the same error messages. Have you ever gotten the game to run?
I just really imported today from your package. Last time I just watched because I couldn't get the tutorial to open. It was just import for like forever. Then it's like the tutorial would be like the last little bit, and then it wouldn't even open. Freeze.
Really? Huh. Yeah, I guess I kind of wish I would have had more problems with it. I haven't had so many issues with this package. You know, you would expect Unity to have their most highly recommended learning material to work right out of the box, right? As soon as you click learn, it's on the very top line, right? It's the beginner's intro to 2D platform games. You know, there's either like looks like a first-person shooter or a Mario Kart game with the third-person camera. You know, first-person, third-person platformer. You know, the only other one that only other type of camera you might have is top-down, that you use for like strategy games and things like that, or a custom camera. We have a custom camera in our software because, yeah, you float around the solar system, and so it kind of pops back and forth between top-down and a camera that allows you to orbit the different planets. But there's no reason why this shouldn't work right out of the box. And it seems as though, yeah, it has to do with your metadata files. When we clicked on your game controller, you had issues, right? It had the little exclamation point thing here.
Yeah.
Let's make sure. Can you share your screen one more time? I want to try and get you fixed up before we move on. And then, yeah, there were other people in class that were trying to get Unity installed still. So,
Okay. I just barely installed the Android package, so it's reopening right now.
Okay.
Open yet? There you go, it's opening now. All right.
Okay. Cinema Machine could not be found. That is actually a much better error message
I
than.
added the Android one, so I don't know if it's a different error now.
It looks like the Cinema Machine could not be found. So go up to Window and Package Manager and scroll down to Cinema Machine. Go ahead and install. Yeah, because the Cinema Machine is used very heavily in this project. It's how the camera works.
All right, I'll tell you when this is finished installing. Does it take a long time? Oh, here we go. And should I restart to see if the same error pops
No,
up?
it looks like your error message went away. Go ahead and hit play.
Oh, you actually moved this time.
All right, no, good, that fixed it. Looks like for some reason your Cinema Machine package got removed or turned off somehow. I'm not sure
Well, what I did with your
why.
package is, you know, I did a new project here. And I did it from scratch in 2D, and I just imported your stuff. And maybe it didn't pull that package by default. I did a fresh one, and it then imported your custom package.
And then it worked?
Well, after we added the extended mark, it worked. But, you know.
Okay, yeah, maybe when I exported the package, it didn't export the Cinema Machine flag. That's one of the reasons why, yeah, I don't like the way Unity handles its packages now, because when you do the export, it no longer exports all your files. It just exports the references in the JSON manifest file, and for some reason, yeah, that flag did not get exported correctly. It was false, and it should have been true. All right, so I'll take back over control now that we got you working. Is everybody else more or less installed now and has the package imported? I don't want to go too far ahead just because, yeah, it's hard to engage if you're can't follow along.
Oh, it's okay. It's only about 1/3 installed, so we can just watch.
Okay.
No problem.
Well, we'll go over the spawning point stuff again.
Okay.
We had done that last class, but yeah, I had gone over it kind of quick. Basically, you take your spawn point, and normally you couldn't see it because there's no sprite render or anything. And so what I did was I came here and I clicked this little icon here, and that gives it a gizmo. You know, if you're not seeing this, it's because your gizmos are turned off. You want to turn your gizmos on. If you want to, you can even make them really big, you know, raw, huge spawn point here, just to give you an idea of, yeah, where the spawn point's at. We can use, you know, to maneuver around, make sure you want to have your hand icon selected. The Q is the hotkey for that, so you can move back and forth and go find our other spawn points. We don't need them quite so big. That's kind of an exaggeration. I usually don't even have my gizmos turned on in case you need them. But yeah, and then I duplicated it and I moved them to the different positions. I moved the transform to the different positions. And you could do this procedurally as well in the code if you wanted to set the positions of the different spawn points in, say, like the start function of game controller. You could set all of your spawn points that way. Actually, let's do that for spawn point number 4. Let's jumble it and move it here, where it would spawn us right over a pit, and then back over in one of our script files. Let's say inside of here. Actually, we can't put it here because this particular class doesn't inherit from mono behavior. We don't get start or awake or update or any of the magic Unity functions that were in the workflow of the Unity framework. And so instead, game controller has it here. So inside of, looks like they don't even have start. So let's go ahead, and you guys don't have to do this. I'm just kind of doing it to show you guys, and as an example where if we wanted to access that thing, it was inside of our platformer model. Teletext helps out a lot here. It was our 4th respawn point. And the 4th respawn point, we wanted to get the position and the X. And actually, I don't think it's going to allow us to set X. We want to set it to 62. But this X is actually read only. So in order to set the position, we actually have to do, we have to set the X, Y, and Z. I don't know, for some reason, Unity doesn't allow you to set the individual coordinates. They're kind of read-only, I guess, but you can set the entire position. Just remember that the entire position is actually a vector 3. So we have to do new vector 3, and the x position is going to be the x position. We don't want the y position or the z position to change, so we actually want to use the existing y position and the existing z position, and yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I never really did understand why they make x, y, and z read-only, but the workaround is just to set the entire position by assigning a new vector 3. And so now, when we hit play, we can even watch and see it's going to hit that line of code in start when we push play, and this 57.22 is going to magically turn into 62. Everybody see that? And so if we were to come back to our scene view, it's now in the correct position, where if we hit stop, it moves it back to where we had before it hit this line of code that we added right here in start. So yeah, just kind of trying to help familiarize you guys with how to set transform positions of game objects, and familiarity with start. Start and update are the two most common functions, the two functions that Unity adds by default whenever you create a mono behavior class. So yeah, so we created these new spawn points, and then we added them to the game controller here, and then the only other code that we had to change was in the player spawner. Inside of execute, we had to add this if then, ooh, good thing we looked at it again. I noticed a bug. We actually forgot else here. Yeah, if we've gone past 62, then yeah, we'll respawn at 4. And the other variable that we added as well was the player progress. We did this last time, actually. Player progress was a floating point value that we added that keeps track of how far the player has progressed along the level. And we added this little block here where we update the player progress as the player moves in the X direction. We don't track the Y. We don't go back. If you were to, say, play the game and get really far and then go back to the beginning of the level, you would still, if you died, respawn at spawn point 4. So yeah, we can even try testing that. One of the things that we looked at is if you have player selected here in the inspector, the player progress is actually being tracked right here. So if I go left, it doesn't go down, but if I go past the furthest point, see how it's keeping track of my progress to a very high degree of precision, actually. Unity goes out 8 decimal points, which actually is pretty high, but in some cases you even go over. Oh no! That slime, see how that slime only comes over to here? If we wanted to fix that so he comes all the way over to here, we can come back. Let's click on our player, and it zooms in on our player. We can click on this slime. So you want to push W. W turns it to move. So the hand is used for moving around in the scene, and W, this is used for moving things or selecting things. So yeah, let's click this. And when you select it in the scene, it also selects it in the hierarchy. So we're dealing with this particular enemy. And this particular enemy has a patrol path You can always click on the script and it'll select it in the hierarchy. And this control path shows the start and end position. And there's also a gizmo that helps give you more information in the scene. That gizmo is generated from this editor script, the patrol path editor. That's a helper script that shows you additional information. If we want the end position to come over, if you want him to come over here, he comes way over here. And so now if we go back to our game, see how he comes all the way over to the side here. Might be fun to see what happens if he tries to go through. Someone says the 4th spawn point endpoint isn't working. I think I might have copy and pasted it wrong into the script. Let's go back to player spawner. Actually, it says 4. Let's first I want to see what happens if this little guy can go through. Oh, he tries to come over, but then the collider stops him. The collider actually overrides him from coming to where he wants to go, which is probably over here somewhere. So I can either, turn it like this and make his path really small, get him to go back and forth like this. Bad things might even happen if you invert them. No, he's actually trying to go this way now. So yeah, and all of these changes that I'm making will get fixed when you push stop, because we're in play mode. But yeah, this is how you can kind of mess with things when you're in play mode with the editor. But let's go a little further and see if our 4 spawn point's working. Oh, 4 spawn point, that's no good. Ooh, there's a secret passage there, looks like. There's probably a missing box. This region probably doesn't have a box collider. So, ooh. See if I can do it here. All right, so hopefully I go back here. Perfect. I didn't want to go all the way back to the beginning. Yeah, let's go ahead and turn on our debugger too. I'm interested to see why this spawn point is not being hit correctly. I think maybe it's also because we had forgotten this else. I told you guys that we had introduced a little bug. We were missing that additional else. So let's go ahead and hit our breakpoint. Our progress was only 58.0922, which is not greater than 62. But it is greater than 39, so it takes us back to our 3rd spawn point. Let's see if I can make it over here. Made it that time. All right. Now we have made it past our death point here. So let's go ahead and jump in here. Our progress was 63. So we should be teleporting and respawning back at spawn point 4. And that it does seem to be the case. I'm not sure. It might have been because you were missing that additional else statement. Yeah, if you look at the logic, if the else is missing, then it would override and put you at spawn point 3. So yeah, whenever you change code and stuff, you opportunity to introduce little bugs like that. And usually you can catch them in testing. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually do have it set as else if for some reason it still throws me an error when I get past that progress. Okay.
My guess would be that in your game controller, you don't have spawn point 4 set here. Make sure that your spawn points are connected.
Yeah, I do have it set in the platformer model.
Okay, is it still not working? Why don't you go ahead and share your screen real quick, and we'll take a look. I'm curious as to what's causing the issue. Was it a null reference? It does look like it's a null reference. You've got your 4 spawn points.
Yeah, right.
You've got your 4 spawn points there. Are they set correctly in the editor? Go to the game controller in your editor. And it looks like
that's
yep, you're missing the connector. Yep, now it should work. So all right. Does everyone else have theirs working correctly? Their different respawn points and everything. I will take that as a yes. Let's see here. Are we at the end level? Ooh. Uh-oh. Oh no. Not actually beat this yet. I'm kind of curious. Uh-oh. We should have set another respawn point. All right, let's stop our debugger. I'm actually going to cheat now, and we're going to take our player, and we're going to teleport and see. I don't even know what happens when you go through walls. As long as we don't hit anything, maybe yeah, I was able to skip around a little bit with the editor and get us back to where we just died. It's one of the nice things about the editor is you can manipulate all of the objects in real time. Wow, that is quite the jump. Might have to use my magic teleportation superpowers again and just teleport myself to here. Now, I'm curious as to what happens. There's a thumbs up animation. We'll take a look at the animator a little bit more today as well, I think. Yeah. Surprised they don't actually have some kind of message in the console. If we were to go click on the animator now, we could see that we're actually in the idle phase right now. This is kind of all of the different animations that the player can go through. So yeah, let's experiment a little bit and ooh, what happened to my I'm sorry, my Google. Sorry about that. I dropped out my web browser, went all funky. Anyhow, let me make sure that my screen is sharing again. Although, yeah, I was hoping someone else could share their screen. I was going to have a new requirement. So in our game, let's go ahead and display our game time, or how long we've been playing, in the lower left corner. Does someone want to try and do that, or do you guys? I mean, I can certainly do it, but if somebody's confident or has an idea of how to add just how long the game has been playing down here in the lower left corner, that's a pretty good short example to kind of test and see that you're understanding how to add elements to the GUI and how to wire up those GUI elements with a script. Yeah, if no one wants to take a stab at it, I can show you how. Basically, yeah, make sure your game is off. You go over to UI canvas, and it looks like actually something is turning this canvas off and on. It's the main menu. Maybe we want to try adding a new brand new canvas. Text. See how it added a new canvas, which is good because the other canvas was turned off. We don't want to really mess with the other canvas too much. It seems like it's used for the main menu, and we don't want to mess up the main menu. So let's go ahead and add text. It ends up adding a new camera. You can click on this text here. Yeah, position it however you want. Kind of see it's in the lower left-hand corner, kind of off to the side where we want it to be. And let's go ahead and add a new script. We'll call it game timer. And inside of game timer, inside of update, we're just going to have it update the text. So yeah, let's go ahead and move our game timer into our scripts folder as well. Otherwise, it adds it to the root of your assets, and I try and keep my root folder, my root assets folder, as clean as possible. That's where your folders go. And so yeah, we just moved that new script into our scripts folder. So we're updating and changing the game timer. The game timer is going to want to update the text that is on the same exact game object. And so it makes it a little bit easier. All you have to do is do get component. Let's go ahead and get our game timer selected. And so we can to get component. We're getting the text component and the text, it's called text property. Sorry, friends dot, yeah, text property. And we're gonna get that, we can set it basically to whatever we want, we want. And then we can go back over to our game. And for now it says new text, but as soon as we hit play, it's going to hit update on the very first frame after start, and it updates the text to whatever we want. Does everybody understand that part so far? We're again, going over and making sure that everybody understands how this get component function works. It's really kind of like magic. It looks at the game object and it says, do you have this component on you? And if you do, yeah, this is what I want you to do. If we didn't have a text component, we would actually throw a null reference. So if we went over here to our player and we tried adding this same game timer component, notice that we don't have a text component on this particular game object. So now when we hit run, we're going to get a whole lot of error messages, because what happens is every single frame, it's going through update and it's saying, oh my gosh, there's no reference. There is no text component on this particular game object. And so we just cleared 1,000 error messages in a few seconds, right? Because every single frame. And so, yeah, you can fix that by adding a null reference check. So you can do if, and if kind of assumes you're comparing it to null. So if you do if, this component exists, then do this. This is a good way of getting rid of those error messages and kind of, adding error handling and validation. So now when we hit play, even though we have this script called game timer on a component that on a game object that doesn't have a text component, at least we're not getting 1,000 error messages because we have this check right here. And so I would advise adding checks to your code to make sure that even though you assume or you think that there's a component there that should exist there, sometimes it doesn't. You forgot to add it or something, or adding null checks to different places, especially properties that are getting to get set in the inspector. Adding a check to make sure that they aren't null is a good idea. It still says it can't find text. Make sure that the game object that you added it to is the text game object we added, this one right here. If you missed that, all I did was I right-clicked and I said game object, and I said new UI, and I said text, this one right here. When we click this, it'll add it to, it'll first add a new canvas, and then it'll add it. But also notice we're in play mode. Make sure you are not in play mode as soon as I hit stop. That new text vanishes because anything you do in play mode goes away when you stop. So my guess would be that it's not finding it because you didn't have it on the right game object. But if you have game timer on your text field, which here's the text component that it's looking for, then it's going to update that with whatever you have here. So if we want to actually put in the timer, we're going to need to have a variable for that. So we'll keep it private. It's going to be a float, and it's going to be called our local game timer. And in here, we'll initialize it to 0 and start. And then every frame, we're going to update it a little bit. It's going to be doing it with time dot delta time, which is Unity's internal game clock. And so we will also set the text equal to our local text. And when we save, and we come back, it's not liking this because local game time is a floating point value and text is a string, so it's expecting a string. So what we want to do is cast this to string, and now it'll work. If you guys have questions about casting, yeah, basically you're changing one variable type into another variable type. And all of that's handled in the C# .NET Core. It's nothing special. If you've been programming for a while, you probably understand casting quite well. Yeah, I think pretty much everybody in this class had some programming before. Otherwise, yeah, let me know if you say, come over the chat and say, casting, and we can go over casting a little bit more. But yeah, I don't want to go over stuff that everybody understands already. So let's go back to our game and hit play and make sure that this text is being updated appropriately. So that looks right. It's moving very, very quickly, right? We're seeing the number of seconds we've been playing in, hundredths of a second or millions of a second, it looks like. But yeah, looks like our game timer actually works. And even if we die, the game timer continues. It does not get reset. If we wanted our game timer to get reset whenever we die, we could write some code for that. Let's write a couple of quick functions and reset our game timer if we die. So this variable was private. So if we want to, we could either make it public. Otherwise, we could make a public function and call it reset game timer. It doesn't do anything other than reset the game timer. Cool. Game time is equal to 0. And now we just have to call this reset game timer function whenever we die. So whenever we respawn, we need to reset the game timer. In order to get to reset game timer, we would have to be able to have a reference to the component in the scene itself. Otherwise, you can also create static functions. So rather than writing a whole bunch of additional code, let's go ahead and just make this new game timer reset function static. And now we don't really have to do too much more. We can just do game timer dot reset game timer. And now if we go back and we test our game, it's saying we have compiler errors. It does not like. I forgot to save my game timer. It doesn't like non-static variables going in static functions, so let's just do private static. Make that static as well. And now hopefully we don't have any compiler issues, and we can test and make sure that our reset game timer function fires whenever we die. Goes back to 0. So yeah, if we wanted to create some kind of high score system, maybe, so the person who goes through the level fastest ends up on the high score menu. Yeah, that could be an interesting function or feature to add. Looks like even when we respawn, at a different respawn point, it's still, every time you do it, it's calling that reset reset game timer function. No matter where you die, it's always calling it there.
So I've been having a problem where for some reason the float isn't updating.
Okay.
Local game time.
Okay. Are you able to see the game? Are you able to see this text box here?
Yes, but it just says like 0.
Says 0. Do you have your game timer script on the game object itself? Do you see game timer and text kind of right next to each other like that?
Mhm.
And so when you come over to your game timer script, did you put it into update? Did you do local game time? And you have all of this here?
Oh wait, I think okay, yeah, there was a part of that I didn't add.
Yeah. So what this function does is it gets the text component. Yeah, and if we wanted to add a little more flexibility to this particular game timer, say we wanted to move this game timer, we don't want it on text anymore. If we want this game timer script to be instead on our game controller, which maybe it makes more sense because our game controller keeps track of a whole bunch of other things. Why not keep track of the game time as well? Well, now we're going to need a reference back to that text box. So we can go to our game timer class or component, and we'll put in a public, you can put in game object. You can also put in text. I usually like to put in text or be as specific as possible with the class that you are calling out. But we're going to call it game timer text, and we can save it here. And now when we come back over to our editor, that new property shows up in our game timer, and we can take our text field and drop it here. And now it knows that it has a reference to this text field now. So we're still not quite finished because we're doing get component, and get component does not, it's looking for the text component on our game controller still. What we want to do is we want to get the text component of the game timer text. So we're going to go ahead and add game timer text in front of get component. So this is now getting the text component off of this game timer. And actually, because game timer text is already of type text, we don't really even need this get component anymore because it knows, hey, I'm already a text. And so we can actually get rid of this part and just say game timer text.text because it knows, hey, I'm already a text. And so as long as this thing isn't null, we will update the text property of the text component with whatever the local game time is. And so now we can come over and hit play again, and everything should work and not throw infinite null references because we've got our game timer text property set. And if you click on this, it'll show you, hey, I'm talking about this particular game object, and I can come over here and this has this text field. And so you can even watch the text go up in the inspector. These are synced because they're correlated through the script itself. And so that's how you can make your script files a little more flexible and add the ability to reference different game objects and just add more functionality to your script files in general. And if we were to go back and look at player, this player references different sounds that are in your project, but then it also has a reference to health. Oh yeah, we talked about this a little bit last time. For some reason, they left the health script on the same game object, but we could actually move this health script to anywhere else, and the player controller would still keep a reference to that that health bar. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions at this point? I want to make sure that we're not going too fast. Everyone's kind of getting a handle on component-driven programming and how to interact with the inspector and plug things in and create properties and things like that. Let's see here. Do we want to do our next kind of in-class quiz example? Do you guys want to try adding a double jump to the character? Does that seem like a good practice feature that you guys want to try implementing? And that's more on the programming side, will be the double jump. The jump itself is more than likely inside of player controller update. Probably, yep, this is where jump is handled. Although it looks like the animator handles the jump. If we put in double jump, looks like we're going to have to add an additional enumeration type. Yeah, the animation might not look that smooth. It doesn't look like the player controller is really set up to handle double jump. We could have it where, yeah, it might not necessarily look good, but at least we can add a second upward velocity whenever we hit the spacebar a second time. Yeah, because right now, if you hit the spacebar a second time, it doesn't allow you to jump unless you're grounded. If we wanted to allow infinite jumps, I'm sure we could do that actually maybe pretty easily, where we just get rid of the logic where he's grounded. Oh shoot, I just closed the Visual Studio by accident. Yeah, let's go ahead and experiment and see if just by removing a little bit of code here, if we can't get him to jump kind of indefinitely, update jump state. Oh, they even have a prepare to jump state. Let's I imagine if we just got rid of this is grounded, that might do it for us. Wow, the kinematic controller is doing an awful lot of things in here. Can we even? No. Let's just, yeah. The double jump looks like it's going to be a much more challenging feature than I had originally anticipated. Yeah, it's integrated with this kinematic object, and it's integrated with the animator. And so adding a double jump, it's more than just a few lines of code. It seems as though it's going to be a pretty major endeavor. It would even, probably take us more time than we have left in the class today. Yeah, it looks like they use 2D gravity. There's quite a bit of code involvement in things in the jumping mechanism. So let's try and think of a different function to add. Does anyone have any suggestions as to what we should do with our game to make it better? Or some kind of example, something you'd like to see to practice with and try and improve our Unity development skills. Any ideas? The double jump wouldn't be impossible to implement. I just think it would take a little while longer than what we have because of the way that the player controller is integrated with the animator and with the kinematic controller. Let's see here. We could maybe have it so the player can jump higher. That's pretty easy because I think there's already a gravity modifier right here. So if we turn this down to say 0.1 instead of 1, then he can probably jump really high. Or if you turned it up to like 4, then he probably wouldn't. Oh, actually, the gravity doesn't necessarily. It seems like it's affecting how quickly he falls, but not necessarily how high he can jump. So, there's minimum ground, normal Y. Yeah, it seems as though the jump has got a lot of components and properties to it already. Should we add maybe a gun functionality so that we can shoot the slimes instead of just jumping on top of them? Would you guys want to try and do that? Where every time you hit, maybe not spacebar, but add maybe S, whenever you hit the letter S, or maybe enter. Enter is probably a better one. Whenever you hit enter, he'll basically shoot something out from his eyes and be able to kill slimes. Does that sound like something you guys like a good feature that could also test the collider and would also test prefabs too? Yeah, let's go ahead and implement a feature that will allow the player to shoot. So let's start by creating our bullets. It's just going to be a 2D object. Let's make it a sprite, I guess. The sprite, we need a bullet color. This kind of looks like a bullet almost. Or it's an asteroid. We'll shoot asteroids from our eyes. Although I don't see where our sprite is. Perhaps it's behind the canvas. Oh no, there it is. It's way over there. The position was off. So position was off, and the size is also kind of on the large side. So let's turn this down to maybe 0.25. 0.25. Even that is pretty big. Maybe 0.05 and 0.05. Those look like appropriately sized bullets to shoot our, or asteroids to shoot at our alien slimes. Maybe a little bigger, 0.1. Let's go 0.1. Proper size asteroids. They're kind of like basketballs, purple basketballs. Let's, instead of calling it news sprite, we'll call it asteroid. It's going to want a collider, so that when we collide with our enemies, it knows to destroy them. So yeah, we come over here and let's add a 2D collider. Probably a sphere collider is the best one to add. If we're in the scene view actually, when you're designing, it's probably best to keep it in the scene view, because you get these little green helper. I'm going to turn my gizmos off because it kind of, no, we need the gizmos getting in the way a little bit, but yeah, this shows you how big the collider is. Clearly the collider is way too big. We need it to be more like 0.1. Oh, that's a little bit on the small side. 0.19. That seems to be an appropriate size collider. Oh, let's just round it to 0.2 for our asteroid bullets. Yeah, if we hit play now, it'll go into game mode, and actually this thing has a collider. It's not colliding with the player though, because the player has a rigid body, and the it's expecting it to be hit by another rigid body, and our asteroid actually doesn't have a rigid body on it. So in order for the collider to work, it needs to also have a rigid body. I thought for some reason it automatically added rigid body, but looks like it does not. It doesn't like to have two colliders on the same game object. It looks like our sphere collider. Well, sphere colliders is a 3D collider. Let's go ahead and remove it. If it were a 2D collider, it would have worked. I think we need a circle collider rather than a sphere collider, because we're going to be having a 2D rigid body, and a 2D rigid body means that we need a circle collider rather than a sphere collider. Yeah, you can't mix and match 2D and 3D, unfortunately, but at least it knew that our radius was going to be about that big. So yeah, now that we have a 2D rigid body and a 3D rigid body, or 2D rigid body and a 2D collider, we should be able to hit play and jump on top of our sphere. Look how it fell. It fell because our rigid body has gravity. If you don't want it to fall with gravity, then you can set the gravity scale to 0. Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do with the rigid body. You can lock it in certain directions so that it doesn't move in the X or Y direction. You know, that's another way of getting it to stagnate and freeze it in position. If we want this thing to never move, we can freeze the X and Y, and that will actually override the gravity, pretty sure. Yep. And so that way we can jump on top of it. Now it kind of acts as a platform that we can jump on. So yeah, we've got our asteroid here. But what happens is we want to be able to shoot these things whenever we hit space. So let's go ahead and turn our asteroid into a prefab. It wants to go into the resources folder. Resources folder can be used to instantiate things at runtime. We'll also probably reference the asteroid whenever we create our weapon. Let's go to our player now and create a weapon script so that he can shoot these asteroids. We'll call it shoot shooting script. It's a new script. There it is. And inside of the shooting script, we are certainly going to want a reference to our asteroid prefab. Here. And so now back over here in our shooting script, that property is going to show up, and we can just drop this asteroid here. And so inside of update, if we want to generate those asteroids, whenever we hit enter, we're going to have to do if, I think it's key down. No, key dot enter. Is it? The magic thing is input. If input, oops. Input dot key down is equal to enter. If you pushed enter, no, maybe it's handled like this. Yeah, that's how you do it. Sorry, syntax error. You got to get them right. Luckily, there's lots and lots of references for syntax. The teletext will usually help you along. But yeah, if, actually I don't even think key down, returns true the frame the player starts pushing it down. It's either get key or get key down. One basically fires over and over and over again if you've got the button held down, and then the other one fires once when you push it. Returns true while it's held down. So that's like a machine gun, and this is like a pistol, you know. So whenever we hit the enter key, we want to instantiate a new asteroid at that position. So we do GameObject.instantiate, and this is going to create whatever we put into it. Yeah, this should actually work. The problem is that it instantiates the object I would have thought we'd see it somewhere in the no errors in our console. Let's go ahead and make sure that this is getting fired. Should fire immediately because it's an update. So that's good. Keypad enter. I was pushing my other enter button. Let's make it so you can push either enter button. Yeah, there's a keypad enter and enter are different, so we can do that. Or same thing, but not the keypad. Just enter. Everybody still follow along? I want to make sure I'm not moving too fast. I do want to get through this in time, but it's not keypad enter. Maybe it's called return? Return. Yeah, now let's try it out. My only other concern is that it might be generating these asteroids not where the player is. Creating the asteroids, but the asteroids are all right here at the same position. So what we want to do is we want to instantiate those asteroids where the player is.
Excuse me?
Yep.
So despite putting in the line that establishes asteroid prefab as a game object, the console still says I need to assign asteroid prefab a variable.
Yep. So you probably have this blank. You want to go ahead and drop the asteroid over here onto the script. Did you do that part? Yep. Otherwise, your asteroid prefab, it doesn't have a reference to it, so you gotta plug it in.
Yeah.
And I'll upload a script for you guys. I wrote a script a while ago where it'll go through your entire project and tell you if you're missing any properties or properties that aren't set, and that way you'll know to go and set those properties. So yeah, once you have that set, then it will instantiate. But the problem is it's instantiating it always at this this position here. Instead, we want to instantiate it where the player is. And so instantiate is actually an overloaded function. There's 10 different ways of doing it. This is the most common. This is one that we used. But you can also give it a transform, which is the parent. So if you want to have it instantiate, on top of the player so that it follows the player, you'd probably use that one. We're looking more for one that has a vector 3, which is the position. So my guess is it's probably not that one, this one. But then it's also expecting a rotation. Is there one with just position? Game objects. They did not give us a very good one. This is the best one. So the position we want is basically the player's position. So we're going to do transform dot position, because this particular script, this shooting script, is sitting on top of the player game object, the player transform. They're basically the same thing. Every game object has a transform, and every transform has a game object. And so now, we could also do, get component transform. That also works too. If we did get component transform, this is basically the same as lowercase transform. So they're interchangeable. And we talked about lowercase transform and uppercase transform, and lowercase game object and uppercase transform, or uppercase game object last class. I posted the videos online, so if you want to go back and look through those, I don't remember at what point we talked about it, but yeah, I explained the difference between the global transforming game object and the local game object and transform. But anyhow, this is getting the transform's position of whatever game object this component is attached to, and in this case, it is the player. And then the last property it needed was the rotation. And in this case, we don't want it to rotate in any weird way, so we're just going to give it the default rotation, which is a quaternion. Quaternion is it's the x, it's the rotation in the 3 different directions, and then there's a fourth, quad usually stands for 4. There's a fourth kind of dimension that fixes the gimbal locking, and I'm not going to go into all of that. That's 3D vector calculus stuff that's not really necessary to know. It's nice because Unity handles all of that stuff for you. But yeah, this should instantiate a new asteroid wherever our player is standing. One thing I think we might run into is it's going to instantiate the game object right on top of the player, which has a collider, and the 2 colliders, yeah, actually it ends up working up all right, because normally the colliders, if they're right on top of each other, it doesn't like that. But yeah, in this particular instance, we were able to generate, and it kind of pushes us up. The 2 colliders are smushed together, and it's pushing the player up. If we want to create it kind of out in front of the person, rather than having the script generate it right on top of the transform, we're going to do the right on top of the transform plus a little bit of distance in the positive x direction. So let's say 0.2 f00, because you can't just add a number. Positions are vector 3s, and so yeah, this will create the asteroid a tiny bit in front. Unfortunately, we'd have to add more logic so that if he's turned the opposite direction, that he would, if he turns this direction, he's still going to kind of put it out in front of him. Actually, 0.2 doesn't seem like it's quite far enough in front. Let's do 0.5 or 5 f. This will make it a little more clear that, yeah, it's out in front of our guy. Isn't being spawned. Make sure that it's getting triggered, you can set a debug point and see and make sure that it's triggered. We did add this additional line of code where yeah, keypad enter wasn't actually the right key code. We wanted return, or if you're, keypad enter is the key on the very lower right-hand corner of your keyboard. If you're using a full keyboard, a lot of keyboards don't have a number pad, or so yeah, input key down, return is the one. And yeah, if we wanted to add a little bit of velocity to this asteroid, let's create a new class, new component for our asteroid here, where we'll call it asteroid script, and this will add velocity to our asteroid, and at the same time we're going to add an on collision function where yeah, if it comes into collision with a slime, we want to go ahead and kill the slime. So yeah, let's come back to our asteroid script, and on update we want to move that transform. So the transforms position, you can either manipulate the position by just adding X. Otherwise, I think there's also a translate. This is the one we want, right? Move the transform in the direction of the distance. Let's try translate first. Otherwise, we can just override. We want it to go in the positive X direction at a speed of 2. That's not so fast. Let's see if how that turns out. This is just the shooting mechanism. It's still not going to kill the slime. We have to add additional logic. Oh, that's really fast. That's a fast one. Let's go ahead and turn down that a little bit, maybe by an order of magnitude. Some of this is just plain, and we could even, if we wanted to, make that a property that you can set in the inspector, but let's go ahead and just turn it down now. That's at appropriate speed. That's a little better. And it's unfortunately going through the slime, or bouncing off the slime. That's a good sign that the colliders collided and it actually kills the slime. Oh, but yeah, we're going to want to add a function here called on collision, enter 2D, and this will fire whenever we collide with something. Yeah, let's make sure that this works. Debug.log warning, say we had a collision. So now when we hit play, we want to make sure that our warnings are turned on. That, yep, we had a collision, which is good. And whenever we have a collision, we want to make sure that if we're hitting a slime, that it kills the slime. Do our slimes, how do I identify a slime? Well, let's take a look here. Each slime looks like it has a slime it has an enemy controller. So over here, it's getting the collision 2D component that's on the slime. So it's actually getting this collider right here. But it also, this collider, it's a component and it's sitting on a game object. And if you have a component or a game object, then you can get any other component that is on that game object. So basically, whatever we collided with, the collision, that's the thing that we collided with. If it has, it'll have a game object. And that game object has components. If it has a what do you call it? Enemy controller. Then we know that it's bad, and it'll we can say debug .log warning, you hit a slime. And at the same time, why don't we go ahead and kill the slime? Anyone have ideas how to do that? How would we kill the slime? It's a single line of code. Go ahead and put your answers in the chat. How would we turn off that game object? How do we kill the slime? So yeah, Unity is saying clone. Clone basically means that you instantiated a prefab. It'll always put the word clone after it. If you want to rename a game object, you can do gameObject.name, and you can set the name to whatever you want. Yeah, usually you would probably do that in like start or an onable. So gameObject.name, just another asteroid. So the correct answer to turn off the game object is just to do collision.gameObject.setActive to false. Otherwise, you could destroy it as well. This just turns it off and leaves it in the scene itself. And one of the things we probably want to do is turn off the asteroids. Otherwise, yeah, if the player goes crazy and generates tons and tons of asteroids, usually you want bullets and things like that to disappear after a certain number of seconds. But let's go back, make sure that we're able to kill these, kill the slime now. Say hello. Boop. And actually, the bullet went right through him and probably killed the other slime as well. If we wanted to have our bullet disappear when it hits the slime, how would we do that? Anyone have any ideas? It would go in the same block of code here. How do we turn ourselves off? Any ideas? Bueller? Yeah, if you want a reference to yourself, you just do gameObject .setActive and you turn yourself off. So now when we come back over to our game and we hit play, and we shoot one of these guys, now our asteroid also goes away. Ooh. Wow, I can almost ride it like a platform. Cool. I think it's doing this because of the collision. The asteroids are actually running into each other. Anyhow. Oh, collision detection. Yeah, sometimes when you use Unity's built-in collision detector, it does funny things. The physics engine can really do some interesting things. Oh no! Oh no! Oh well. There's our respawn point. So, yeah, and if you look, I think all of the things that have been generating, they have the just another asteroid name rather than calling it clone. We're coming up on our time now. Does anybody have any questions about the stuff that we did today? I'll get the recording of this session posted tonight. I think it happens pretty quick. Doesn't do it immediately, but yeah, Google pushes it to drive pretty fast. So I'll get this posted online. Is there something you guys want to focus on next week? Or are we having, are you guys getting a lot of value out of just going back and forth and showing you guys examples of how to instantiate things and add new things and how things work in the inspector? Yeah, I definitely want to take this class in whatever direction you guys want to go. Yeah, does anyone have anything? Otherwise, yeah, if you find something online that you want to go over next class, let me know. I'll come up with stuff. Obviously, I'll find some things for us to go through. But if you guys have something specific that you want to go through or something that you're not understanding, definitely let me know. Yeah, I'm really kind of here just to help you guys do whatever it is you want to do. So, yeah, we might end up just implementing some new features in this particular game next week, or I don't know, maybe I'll show you guys. Maybe we'll change speeds and do something in 3D if that's more interesting. Yeah, I go ahead.
So yes, hi. So I was just saying, I asked for the game, and then our Unity kind of crashed out. So I'm just curious, and I'll watch the video and catch up with that. But what's the big picture? I mean, what should we know about working in Unity? So I'm thinking about an outline, structure.
Yeah.
Is there a textbook? I know we had the Humble Bundle, but is that where we should go, or just follow the Unity manual? What do you suggest?
Well, the Unity manual is huge. If you make it all the way through the Unity manual, you'll definitely know how everything works. Problem is and actually that's kind of what I did when I started using it. Was that I went through the manual. The training videos used to be more structured. Actually, I went through all of the training videos. Now I guess they have so many training videos that it's not possible to go through them all. I've kind of been trying to cover the most important features in Unity. Really understanding the inspector and how to create these new properties for the inspector and how to plug things in and how to plug in prefabs and create new things. If you know how to use all of the core tools that Unity has, the sky is the limit. You can really do anything with Unity. It's got the .NET Core on the back end, and so you can do networking things. You can do really just about anything. But my goal was kind of to show you all of the primary tools, helping you understand, how to set debug points is important if you're going to be doing a lot of programming. Explaining and telling you to watch out for some of the pitfalls that I ran into when I was learning Unity. Yeah, I'll been trying to follow kind of a list of the most important things. You know, we haven't gone over the train editor or anything because that's all 3D related as well. But I figured, yeah, just kind of going through these example games gives you a pretty good idea of what possibilities exist. I feel like, yeah, we still should go into collision detection a little bit more, especially when it comes to 3D things. It can be a little more tricky. You know, we might want to go into the physics engine a little bit. I'll show you guys some physics stuff next week for sure. But yeah, I basically just wanted to show you all there is to, or at least all of the major features and functions that Unity has, so that, you know, you'll, if you have the tools, you can, a lot of it's just using your own creativity to make, you know, whatever it is that your mind can come up with.
Oh, okay, great. It would be good if we could just know what those core tools are.
Okay,
You
yeah,
know,
I'll make a list.
pitfalls. Oh,
Unity's website, yeah, I used to have a list. I'll make a my own personal list and send it to you guys. And yeah, if you know all of those core tools, you should be in a pretty good position to start making your own games.
all right. Thank you.
Yep. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything before we sign off tonight? Yeah, I'll post the link on the Slack so that if you want to go back and rewatch the video, or we might have been going too fast somewhere, then yeah, can watch it again. Okay, very good. Well, yeah, if you have any questions, just ping me on Slack. Otherwise, I will see you guys next Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. Thanks.